about cosplay or doing service, charity, volunteer events while doing cosplay. So we are the Avengers Initiative. In particular, we are members of the West Coast Avengers, so our California-based group. We are a nationwide club, so if you're here from out of state, there are opportunities from across the country, so come and talk to us afterwards. But a lot of these folks are based here in the greater LA area, and we will be talking specifically about that area today. My name is Alice. I am the Southern California Membership Officer for the West Coast Avengers. So again, if you have membership questions afterwards, please come and talk to me, or Jennifer here in the front row, our captain partner, who is the XO of the West Coast Avengers, if you're here. She's like shaking her head at me about So I am going to be our moderator for today. We have a wonderful group of panelists for both some of our volunteers in the group as well as a partner in the sort of healthcare hospital industry. I'll let her introduce herself. She'll do a better job than I just did. But guys, Natalie, why don't you start? Introduce yourself to folks today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Natalie Chicas. I work for the Shriners Hospitals organization, specifically the one in Southern California. So we're actually located in Pasadena. And my job is I'm a certified child life specialist. So I work directly with patients and preparing them for procedures, distractions, just that psychosocial support for patients in the hospital setting, just to make sure that the environment is a lot less anxious and less fearful. And I work with the Avengers Initiative. I think it's been like 6 years, maybe, probably a little bit more. But we've been working together since we were actually in our Los Angeles location before we moved to Pasadena. And so they do visits pretty much like annually. I would say maybe 3 to 4 times a year, sometimes more, depending on what events we have going on. And so because I also coordinate the volunteers, then they come on as volunteers to see our patients and families and staff as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam, also known as Elemental Cosplay, and I have been in Avengers Initiative for 3 months, I think. I just moved to LA over the summer. I love it here. Chicago sucks right now.
It's raining today, though.
Hi, I'm Patty. I've been with Avengers Initiative, I think, almost 2 years now. So I joined probably right before the pandemic, and so that was an interesting experience to learn to do things virtually, but now that we've shifted to more in person, it's been fantastic. So, everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is... Okay, I think the mic is on. My name is Colin. I've been with the Avengers Initiative for almost a year now. I've been cosplaying for almost 10, and I love cosplaying and volunteering. It's always great to show up as Spider-Man or Captain America and see just kind of the smiles on the kids' faces.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm relatively new to the Avengers Initiative, but I've been cosplaying for years and designing and costuming.
Awesome, thank you guys. So we have a wealth of experiences here today. They don't know the questions I'm going to ask them, but I'm going to start now, guys, and I'm just going to call on you. So
it's like school.
True, false.
Yep, be
True, false.
So I would love for you guys to tell the crowd, like my personal experience is that I learned about doing service and cosplay from an event exactly like this back at AwesomeCon in DC 7-8 years ago, right? I didn't know it was a thing. So I know the answers to most of these, but Brittany, why don't you tell the people how you found out about Avengers Initiative and how you got involved in the first place?
Well, I had seen you guys occasionally on a few things, but wasn't all that familiar. Then it turned out that a friend from Steampunk Cosplay Community's daughter is very active in Avengers Initiative and introduced me, and I got to see your guys' panel at WonderCon and went home and signed up.
Colin?
So I found out about you guys actually here at LACC last year during the big fan shoot, and really liked what the group was about, so I applied to join and got accepted. My first event was the Ronald McDonald walk earlier this year, and absolutely loved it.
I actually was kind of looking for a volunteer opportunity and something kind of like that. And I also just stumbled across the page, and I was just initially like blown away because it was both an opportunity to indulge in Marvel geekiness that I love, but at the same time also get to give back to my community. So it was like the perfect blend of both worlds.
Well, I've only been cosplaying for about 4 years, and at my very first convention that I cosplayed at, I saw someone told me about volunteering in cosplay, and I've always done some kind of volunteer work, and I thought it was amazing. So then when I moved out here, I was looking for opportunities to do that, and I found Avengers Initiative.
Natalie, I know you talked about it a little bit, but we would love to hear kind of how you first became aware of the Avengers Initiative and how that relationship really developed all those many years ago.
Yeah, I met Mark Chu-Lin, like I said, I think it has to be like 6-7 years ago maybe. It's been a long time, but he actually approached Shriners. I think he had already done some work with our Shriners hospitals in Northern California. And so because he had done work there, at first I was a little, like, I wasn't sure because we really don't have visitors come to the hospital all the time, especially cosplaying. So I kind of was like, yeah, let's meet. He told me all about it, showed me pictures, and I was like, oh, I think this would be a good time to actually bring cosplayers to the hospital. And so we did, and then it's kind of been like a non-stop relationship since then. And they've been really great at like just not only coming to the hospital and providing services for our patients, but other events that we do for the community. I think next weekend we have an event that's going to be for the Shriners fraternity side of it, but still for children to go pick up gifts. So we just built a relationship with the Avengers Initiative throughout the years, and you know, I'm really thankful because I get to work with everybody here very closely when they come to the hospital as well. And so it's really nice that they can come and provide these services for our patients.
Awesome, thank you guys. So we are called the Avengers Initiative. We focus on Marvel related cosplay, but and we do ask that before you join or as you're getting your application together, you have one good Marvel costume. And by good, we just mean you're recognizable, you're something that the kids will see. We also accept shield agents. So if you want to come help us out by wrangling or taking pictures, you could be in a suit and be a shield agent. So there's so many Marvel characters. We do try to keep it Marvel focused, but that's my very inarticulate segue because a lot of these guys have been cosplaying for a long time and they don't exclusively do Marvel cosplay. So I want to hear from you guys, and I'm going to pick a I'm not just going up and down the line, guys. We're going wild and crazy today, but I want to hear from you guys actually how you got started in cosplay in general. So Patty, you're up.
I figured that.
You saw me.
So, yeah, I knew it was coming. Thank you. So my brother, who's actually also an Avengers Initiative, I have been secretly watching for years. He is one of these really creative types that likes to build costumes and, you know, maybe call it friendly sibling rivalry, but I would see him put together costumes and started to think to myself, maybe I could try this. I mean, I'm not a seamstress, but I'm somewhat crafty. So I would start trying to attempt to build them, and actually my brother, being the good brother he is, would try to actually help me build them, and that's how it started, and it snowballed. And judging by the amount of costumes hanging from the back of the bathroom door, now they're mine, it's gotten out of control. But, you know, it's all in good fun, and I thoroughly enjoy it, and now I keep doing it over and over and over.
Brittany?
I started, basically, I wanted clothes that fit me better. So I'd start making clothes, and I loved retro looks, and I'm into fashion, so I went kind of that route. And while doing retro events, I learned about steampunk. Then I went into steampunk. Then steampunks had mashups, and I started learning stuff, and I'm a big Marvel nerd, so I just kind of combined all worlds together to make the best possible. You know, I have tons of costumes and clothes that we call clothes. So, yeah.
Functional.
All right, Colin, you're up.
So 10 years ago, I went to one of my first Comic-Cons, and I saw people that were kind of cosplaying, and I thought it was so cool. I've always kind of liked dressing up. Halloween's my favorite holiday, and I just thought, oh, I didn't know like people like did this at fan conventions. So a year later, when I went to the same convention, I wore my first costume. It was the Joker, and I just kind of been hooked to it ever since. I just like the idea of being able to portray and embody a character that I really like and that I really adore, and kind of express the elements of what I like by actually becoming that character.
Well, my grandmother started teaching me to sew when I was a toddler, and I have been sewing all my life, but didn't really do cosplay until a few years ago. But about 6 or 7 years ago, Dragon Con in Atlanta invited me to come speak. I'm a scientist, I'm a conservation biologist, Captain Planet. And they actually invite a lot of scientists to come talk alongside all the celebrities to talk about like science stuff in movies. And Dragon Con might be the biggest cosplay con, and it was amazing. I mean, that being your first convention is overwhelming. But it was awesome. But I was really busy at the time, and I really wanted to start getting into it. And when I finally did, like it does for everyone else, it snowballed into an obsession, and now it's a problem.
It does become a problem. Natalie, are you thinking about getting into cosplay?
I have not thought about it.
Don't start.
Once you start, you'll
Be
never
careful.
know.
I mean, I love all the costumes, but not yet.
So, you know, at 2, I'll just do a quick plug. We are having a more general panel about the club hosted by Jennifer, who's going to keep shaking her head at me if I keep raising her name. But, so I really want to make sure that we're focused on the experiences that we've had in our volunteer life here. And so I'm gonna really talk for a little bit to give you guys time to think about this question, but I would love to hear you guys talk about a particularly meaningful experience that you've had while doing cosplay. I know some of you are a little bit newer to this, so maybe a funny time, a touching time, whether it's with a parent or a child or staff, right? As Natalie mentioned, seeing staff is such a huge part of what we do. When we go into the hospitals in particular, which we are so fortunate to get to do, Shriners, Children's Hospital, Orange County, we have a lot of relationships here in the greater Los Angeles area, kind of all across. We're not just here in LA. Some of us come from the Inland Empire. We've got folks all over the place here. We are so fortunate to get to go in, and even in this sort of COVID-y time that we find ourselves in, right? Like, there are challenges. We are still masked a lot of the time when we go into the hospital settings. But we're there for the children, for sure, obviously, but also for the parents, for older siblings who are having a really hard time as their parents are focused on, or younger, siblings in general, right? We're also there, the staff. There are times where we've gone in just for a staff appreciation day, and the staff are so happy and relieved to see us because their jobs are incredibly important, incredibly hard. And we're there to give them maybe a 5-minute giggle about Black Widow and Hawkeye being there, Captain Carter, Captain Marvel, or like any of our terrific characters. So that was my really long intro that I hope gave you guys time to think about a particularly meaningful, Natalie, I am going to call on you too, so a particularly meaningful moment, whether meaningful by your definition, right? So like, I know we've been up on stages like this and told stories that make people cry. We can also make people laugh. So don't look at me. I have never made anyone cry. So I would love to hear from Colin.
Yeah, just kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, I think the Ronald McDonald walk earlier this year, I got to dress up as a Spider-Man and just kind of seeing the smiles on the kids' faces. I think just kind of seeing a familiar character that they really love, like Peter Parker, kind of put them at ease, before and after the walk. And it's just great to like have kids like come up and they're all excited, like, oh, Spider-Man! And they hug you and they want to take pictures, and it just kind of gives them like a good feeling.
A time where you maybe have witnessed when superheroes or other volunteers like what we do have come in and maybe provided a meaningful moment or a funny moment or just a really memorable moment for you.
I think this was recent because a staff member came up to me and told me this story, but we had a patient who usually comes in weekly for some cast changes. And I think she was like maybe between ages of like 4 and 5. She was really young. And she usually does a good job, but then of course, can you imagine if you're coming every week to get cast changes on both your feet and you're just there waiting? And so we had an event and the Avengers were going around and saying hi to everybody, but she did not want to leave until the cosplayer came by and saw her. and then she would say, okay, then I'll get my cast put on. And so we were like running around, the staff was telling me to like call, like they're like, call Natalie. And then so we brought the cosplayer back, and the patient was like super happy, and then the rest of her appointment was like so much easier. And so there's just those little things, and I could probably tell you like a million more stories of like kids coming up to me and saying like, when are they gonna come back? Or are you gonna have another event where the Avengers are gonna be here? And so I think that it does definitely make a really huge difference, because like I mentioned, those little things, like just to make a difference in that patient's appointment is going to make all her other appointments, or will make her other appointments so much easier in the future. Or even then, like Mark is always, everybody here is always so welcoming to say, just call us if you just need like a video to say hi, or a video just to, encourage a patient for any type of procedure. And so I'm very thankful, because they were the first group to come back after the pandemic. I was very like, I don't know, but we had a Halloween event back in 2021, and that was the first event that we were able to have. It was outdoors, and the kids had such a great time because everything was so limited before. It made such a big difference. So I don't think I have that's one story, but I have so many to share that it just definitely makes an impact. And working with Child Life, our job is to make sure that we ease all of this fear, anxiety, and just make sure that the experience is so much better for everybody. And so adding this piece to our program and to the hospital, like I said, makes a difference for everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to that and continue to give you guys some time to think, but honestly, not to sound like Miss America, but every time we go is memorable, right? Every time we go, we see a child or a parent or a sibling or somebody who was in need of a little bit of a smile. Sometimes it's in the parking lot. Sometimes it's as we were walking through the hospital and the little tiny girl comes up and I said, look for Captain Marvel in the sky later, right? Like, probably ruined her parents' day. Like, she's like in the car for days later. Like, where's Captain Marvel? Where's Captain Marvel? Look at this latecomer. Welcome back. I know. Yeah, so every time we go, and honestly, once you start doing this, I've been doing it for about 7 years now. I now do more sort of volunteer opportunities and things. I'm also Fiverr First and Rebel Legion, so on the Star Wars side, I do more volunteer stuff than I do cosplay stuff these days. So I started as a cosplayer, much like these guys, got into volunteer stuff, much more active on the volunteer side. You will get that we do it as much for ourselves as we do it for the people that we're visiting, and we're so incredibly fortunate. So, Patty.
Oh,
You saw me.
I think you might remember this, because I think you might have been with us. So at Ronald McDonald, and yes, I can attest to the fact that Colin was extremely popular as Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's always
He was
Spider-Man's always
really,
popular.
really popular that day. But this happened when we were I think you might have been with my brother and myself on a break of all things. We were walking back to the table that we had at Ronald McDonald, and there was a bounce house that we were it's a giant bounce house. You remember, see, she remembers this. She knows where this is going. I promise it's funny. So we were walking past this bounce house, and right when we got it, there were children running through the bounce house. And mid-bounce, there was this little boy that he stopped and froze. And then he turned and looked at us, and we were just, mind you, going back on a break, talking to each other, just not minding anybody. And then he turned and his face, and he just started screaming. He was like, Mom, 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 and he's yelling and yelling and yelling. And we were like, well, what happened? Is everybody okay initially? And it turned out he had seen my brother, who was dressed as Doctor Strange that day, and apparently, unbeknownst to all of us, he was the biggest Doctor Strange fan on the planet. And he started screaming, Mom, 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 come quick, Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange. And he just literally, he's in the bounce house, mind you, and he runs to the edge of the bounce house wall, and he's like this, he's like, Mom! And I could see Mom all of a sudden start fumbling with her phone and come running over towards us. And she's going, okay, and I could see her trying to she's like, take a picture now! And he's yelling at her. And it was you had thought that, the world was just, there fireworks everywhere. It was the greatest moment of his life. It was so cute. And he's over the bounce wall going like this, and his mom's taking photos of all of us. And it was just, it caught us off guard, but it apparently caught his mom off guard. It was the funniest, cutest thing we'd ever seen, but you made his day. And she was just so happy to see it, and he was just so happy. It was the funniest moment. It took us completely off guard, and it was so adorable looking back. And we were just like, it made our day, not just his day and his mom's day, it made our days, because we were just literally like laughing and thinking how much fun it was to see him so excited and so happy. I've never seen a kid literally mid-playground, mid-bounce house, like stop and freeze and come running over. Like, it was the best day of his life. And it was so, so cute in the long run to think about it. And I've never forgotten that because it was so funny in the moment.
It was very cute, yeah. I think the thing for people to know is that when we're interacting with children, and if you cosplay, like, it's great if you're around here, sorry to call you out, but for children, even at Comic-Cons, you have children who come and look at you, and for that moment in time, you are that superhero for them, right?
Yes.
So, like, I'm Carol Danvers to people right now, right? Sam is Captain Planet. Like, we are here for these children, and in that moment in time, we are very, very, very real to these people, to the children, right? The parents are not around, but like the kids for sure, right? Have a brief moment in time where Captain Marvel has for sure come and visited them, or Captain, any of the superheroes that we roll out. We do occasionally, I will say again, we're very Marvel focused. We are the Avengers Initiative, but there are certainly opportunities if you do DC cosplay or any of these other cosplays where we might do like a comic book day where there are opportunities to do non-Marvel cosplay. So like I have Wonder Woman in my closet. Like I have a lot of non-Marvel cosplay. So while we do ask that you have Avengers cosplay or not Avengers, but Marvel cosplay, there are opportunities to roll out some of your other costumes from time to time with us. So just if you're a DC specific cosplay or anything else, princesses, people love princesses, like there are certainly those opportunities. So Brittany, you want to go?
Okay, so on Halloween, we did a reverse trick-or-treating where we took bags of candies and toys and coloring books and stuff to the kids' rooms because of COVID, they still, weren't doing large groups, but we could go individually into the rooms and see them. And I remember there were some like teenage kids that you would think, oh, superheroes, sure, and kind of roll their eyes. But they were so happy just to see us, to get a break from everything going on. One was in a bad car accident, one had surgery, and just to see people that came to the hospital and they were visiting them for like no reason. They were so happy. So I think even like, the little kids that see you as their superhero, it's a big deal. But it's also a big deal for anyone else there just to have a change of pace and to see some cheery things and get their mind off of what they're going through.
100%, yeah, absolutely. We see that all the time where people are just so relieved, right? Like I think relief is such a great word for what it is that, here's a different part of my day, right? These are healthcare workers, people who are in incredibly challenging jobs all the time, right? Pandemic or no pandemic, these are tough, really important jobs, and so we see that relief on people's faces, and people just get really tickled. So,
I had too much time to think.
I know. All right, they're never going to make me a moderator.
Hospital visits are always really important to me, and I will try my hardest to always, always, always say yes. So I had cancer for 9 years, and I know what it's like. I've been on the other side of that. And even as an adult, if Carol Danvers had walked into my infusion room, I would have freaked the F out. And that would have been all I could think about. And the fact that we can do that for kids who are going through it is amazing. It's an immediate change. It goes from this is painful and this is hard and this is awful to what the hell is happening here? And, especially now. So I had to go through some major surgeries and treatments in 2020, height of the pandemic, where no one, including my husband, could even come inside the hospital building. And I know, even for me in my 30s, it was terrible. And a lot of kids are coming through this now who, until now, or maybe still, could only have maybe one parent with them and no one else. And the fact that they had to go through that and felt so alone. And then not only can they have visitors now, but their visitors are like, Tony Stark went out of his way just to come see them in the hospital. I hope, and I think it does, really change how they're viewing their hospital stay.
Thank you. Yeah, Samantha brings up an important point, which we talk about kids a lot, and we talk about sort of the systems around children, right? Parents, siblings, and so on. But sometimes we get an opportunity to visit not children, right? Often, in fact. So I'm not a panelist, so you're still going to have to hear a story from me. But I moved from DC last year, where I lived for 25 years, and I'm not telling the story. You think I might be telling. I know you're not. I can't. I don't have issues. I don't have issues where I drive. Well, we might grow a little bit. So I moved from DC, and in DC we have Walter Reed Hospital. Walter Reed is where soldiers returning with injuries from overseas, Iraq, Afghanistan, often go post-theater, right? So they'll go to Landstuhl in Germany, and then they'll come back to Walter Reed. I myself am the daughter of a veteran, granddaughter of a veteran. This is pretty important to me. But we went every year for the big USO event on base, and then we'd go over to Walter Reed, where we'd often see like retired naval officers who are like getting their knees checked out or whatever. But there was one day where, and I remember I was Black Widow that day, and Captain America cried that day. We saw a young man who had just come back from Afghanistan, where he had been the victim of an IED explosion. And he was in bad shape. He was in bad shape. We went into his room, the nurses, this is well pre-COVID, right? Some of these things have changed a little bit kind of since COVID, but we went into his room, and the explosion had hit him here, and so he would need significant reconstructive surgery. But my guy was on a lot of painkillers that day. And we walk in, there were like 10 of us, right? We walk in the room, I got Captain America, I'm Black Widow, right? We walk in the room, and this kid, like I say kid, he was 19 maybe, he was young, he was a young soldier. And he just lit up, right? Like, and again, I'm a lot of painkillers. But for him, we were very much the real Avengers that day, like in every way. I think he might have thought I was girly with him briefly, but great. Give everybody painkillers. We walk. Sorry, we walk in the room, and he looked at us, and our Captain America, who's also a veteran, just like burst into tears and had to leave. This kid looks at us and he goes, we're there taking pictures, and he goes, I can't believe I made it back from Afghanistan alive, and now the Avengers are here to see me. And we, like, everybody had to like go around a corner and take a moment. But like for him, like, what a miracle for him that he had come back, and for us to even give him like a moment of peace, right? Like, he was, like I said, very medicated necessarily to treat the pain that he was going through, but he was so excited to see us, right? So it's not just little children, it's not toddlers, it's not, it's not little kids, even teenagers sometimes. They're like, okay, don't get like a high five. Like a 15-year-old will think we're okay enough to give a high five too. Right? So it's not just kids, we talk about kids a lot, we're all so grateful to be able to do kids, but like, Samantha has a very personal story, and occasionally we get to go see people in various different situations in life. Sometimes we get to do fun stuff, right? Like, can you guys, again, I'm going to give you a long lead up to this question. So, speaking of, tell me about an event that we did that was like maybe not a hospital, maybe something we wouldn't call particularly like a service event. And I'm going to let you guys choose who wants to speak up, because maybe not everybody has an example of this, but like an event that you've done associated with the Avengers Initiative that was maybe like purely for fun, right? Like we've done some media events, like if there's something that you want to talk about that you've gotten to do as a result of your association with Avengers Initiative. I will go first. I got to drive to Victorville to go to a really cool like haunted hayride event. I got to drive to Victorville, but like yeah. It was a really cool haunted hayride event, and we're there, and like it's one of those things where like kids are running around on this haunted hayride. Nobody was, as far as I know, nobody was sick that day. We were just taking pictures for fun, right? It was something that we got to do purely for fun, but associated with the Avengers Initiative. So do you guys have any stories? Like I see a nod from Matt Murdock there. Go ahead.
Yeah, free comic book day. We got to be at the Perky Nerd in Burbank. We all got to dress up. I got to be Green Arrow, so customers were coming in. They were all super excited to get to take pictures with the characters that they going to read in the comic book, so that was pretty fun. I know we also did Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness earlier this year. I got to be Spider-Man for that. That was also super exciting.
Yeah. We have some relationships with local movie theaters who will invite us to come hang out for like opening weekend, right? So we'll get to go be there in the lobby of the theater and take pictures with everybody. I think Colin, you and I did that one that day. Right?
Mhm.
Yep. It was Captain Curry that day, as I recall. So, anybody else fun stories?
I think probably, it's not so much one story, but we did the Citadel, and I did that the first time last year, and I'm doing it again this year. It was so much fun. You get to bring toys to donate to kids, and also at the same time, like, you get to stand by their giant Christmas tree with the CHP, the California Highway Patrol, and wave. And it's a lot of fun to just see, like, the kids just, you can tell and as a former shy kid myself, they get, like, they're a little, like, hesitant. They see you, and you can see that flicker of recognition from both the grown-ups and from the kids, and they just kind of like, they're like this, they're like, do I wave, and then you wave back at them, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, it's okay to wave. So they'll wave back at you, and it's a lot of fun. I got to do it last year as, I think I did Yelena, and this year I haven't quite decided, but I have way too many costumes to pick from, but, and that includes
Story of our
non-Marvel too.
lives.
But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun to just get to do it, and people are shopping, and everybody's generally in a good mood, and you get to also donate to, you know, a worthy cause at the same time. So it's a lot of fun, honestly. And the more I do, that's why I'm doing it again this year too, is I had so much fun myself. So that alone is worth
It's
it.
a great excuse for those of us who love to cosplay to like wear your cosplay all the time. So like for me, I think part of it was, you know, in Washington DC, we didn't have I mean, there are a lot of cons here in Southern California, but like I wanted to be able to use my costumes more, right? You spend X amount of money on your costumes and you want to be able to use them. And so another example is we got invited by the Comic-Con Museum to come out for the opening night. Mr. Negative was there. I was like, to see, like, we got to go out for like the opening of this cool museum, right? Like they invited us to go be there and take pictures in their really cool Spider-Man exhibit. So again, you know, you guys are looking at the back of Mr. Negative here. Make sure you take a look. We have pictures of our pretty good things, so come by and see those. But any other cool stories, guys? Otherwise, I will keep rolling.
I was just going to say that just the other Avenger Initiative people are so much fun to be with. It doesn't matter what the event is. Everyone has like the same thought process.
Not this
and
guy.
Most people don't.
Not the guy next to me.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you're shy or awkward or stutter, you know, your shape, your size. Everyone's in it for the same reasons, and it's all really friendly. And you guys are a great family, even like from the first event, first time out.
Absolutely. That's really nice to hear, especially, you know, Brittany mentioned at the beginning she's a relatively new member, and we're always recruiting. We're always looking for good folks who want to come and do these service events. But yeah, it's all fun. I would argue that the service events are the most fun. But I want to open it up to questions. I'm sort of mindful of the time here, but I have kind of one more general question that I hear from people a lot. I hear from people things like, "Won't you cry?" And Natalie, I want to hear your advice too for people visiting what you would recommend to people from a cosplayer perspective. But like, I hear from people all the time, like, how do you handle it? Isn't it really, really hard? So along those lines, I would love to hear from you guys kind of what your advice is to people who might be starting to do this volunteer work. Like, what was your experience first time? What would you say to somebody who's just starting out or maybe is feeling a little apprehensive about going into the hospitals or going to these events where you might see, I mean, we visited back in DC, Northern Virginia, we went to a hospice where we saw terminally ill children, right? Like this stuff is hard and it can be really challenging. So I would love to hear from you guys, and I will accept a volunteer first, or I will call on somebody. So if somebody doesn't have it, yeah, how do you guys do that? Yeah, thank you, Patty. Where's Sam?
I don't know. I guess if you're any kind of caregiver, you know, you sort of like exit that space. You have to get better at compartmentalizing because, you know, you're there to distract the kids and you can't distract them with fun if you're not having fun. And you just have to push it back for yourself to deal with later. Yeah, that's really it. There's really not much else to say. Is just focus on their joy at seeing you and not on your experience. It's not about what you're feeling at the moment, it's about what you want them to feel in the moment.
I would say, I mean, two things. One, like for me, it's like it gets me out of the headspace in a way when I'm dealing whatever issues I'm dealing with, to kind of go into the headspace where I'm actually there to help, be there for someone else. It's sort of therapeutic for me in a way, because then I come out of it like it gets me, it allows me in a strange kind of way when I'm not focused on myself and I'm focused on being there for other people and just to have fun and get into the headspace of being that character for that moment. It makes a world of difference, because I walk out of there and I'm like, wow, I feel better personally. Just me personally, I feel a lot lighter. I feel a lot less stressed. Whatever I was thinking of, and this has always been my experience in every event I've done, is I walk in there like I come in, unfortunately, with issues, thinking about the issues I had that day. And then when I leave the event, I'm always like, wow, I feel so much lighter, so much better. So it's kind of a therapeutic sort of work through for me. So I would suggest, like, in me personally, it's helped me tremendously that way. So the more I do it, the better it is for me. So I would suggest that too.
I think you also pick up on the joys of the kids and the patients and the parents, you know, that they're so happy to see you. You feed off of that too.
Yes.
It's not, yes, there's a sad situation there, but you brought the happy, and now they're happy. And if you do go through stuff, it's okay, you know, to step out and cry. No one's going to judge you, and the other Avengers are there to help you too, so.
For sure. Colin, you want to?
Yeah, I would say embrace the character that you're portraying. Remember who you are in that moment. Kind of tap into that kind of inner hero that you're portraying, and draw some kind of strength for that in the moment. 'Cause it is about the kids and the patients, and I also agree. It's okay to take a moment to cry.
Waterproof mascara. Perspective, and which I never remember the word, but like waterproof mascara, but also
Setting spray.
Yeah, if you think it's going to be like a little bit of a problem, because it can take some time to get used to, right? Like I've had times where I like I said, backlog to read, had to go around the corner, right? Like we gotta get depuffed real quick, but like there are many Marvel characters who wear full face masks. Right? So like I'm always jealous of Spider-Man, right? Like you're crying back there, right?
I also can't see, so.
Clogs everything up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think that's my experience too, and you kind of go into the character. You like are there for all intents and purposes. Like you might walk around Comic-Con and I'm not role playing as Carol Danvers, but like while you're in a hospital setting, you are absolutely that person. Right, so it's easier when I'm Carol to not be like sobbing when I see these children, or Captain Carter, right? Like I think these are all really, really great pieces of advice for people starting out. Natalie, I'd love to hear from your perspective, like what you've seen of cosplayers as like a good best practices, and maybe if you have some not so great, we'd love to hear that too.
Well, I think the most important part, especially with I think the Avengers Initiative does such a good job, because anybody that comes to the hospital, I've never had like an issue with where they're breaking rules or anything like that. But you have to think about the fact that there's people who this is their first time coming into a hospital setting with their children, or just the first time doing some type of volunteer work, and sometimes you may think you're saying something, but then sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not what we want to say, right? Because we don't know the outcome of that patient's condition or things like that as well. But I think the most important thing is that, everybody's human, so if you have to cry, that's totally okay. My job is tough too, so there's times where I'm like doing my job and I'm like, okay, when I leave, that's my time to show my emotions, to let everything go. So I think that's totally normal, like for people to feel that way that they're feeling, because that's you're going into a situation, again, you just don't know what that family may be going through. You may have a parent who witnesses these Avengers coming in and their child smile for the first time in a few days, and then so that's emotional for the parent. So again, you don't know, but I think it's important to really try to get to know your feelings too, and saying okay, take a deep breath before going into this room, or ask the personnel at the hospital, is it okay if I tell or ask the patient this question or say this to the patient? because I always say to volunteers, anybody, you could say like, oh, I hope you get better, but again, that's something that I really try to stay away from, because again, I don't know from the next day from one day to the next what that patient may be going through. So I just say like more like motivational kind of things that will help them get through the day or things like that. Just be themselves, like be the character. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Yeah. I will say you'll never be on your own, right? So you're never going to be stranded by yourself if you join. Like, we're a team, and you'll always have somebody with you, whether it's an officer, Jennifer, myself, Mark, who we've mentioned here, who has had more experience with this. We have guidelines that'll help you out, right? These sort of don't say like, you know, have an amazing, healthy day, right? Like, you know, like, hope your terminal cancer gets better, you know, like that, right? Like, we have enough experience. I know, like, I don't make the best jokes, but I make yeah, I mean, like, we have so much experience sort of corporately as a team, and we are here to help each other out, right? We're always watching each other's backs, and so, you know, as we are going into situations, and we're watching for each other, like, right, like Brittany said, like, we are here as a unit, and so if I see that Jennifer's getting really emotional, I'm like, Captain Carter, get behind me, right? Like, we are here for each other, so you shouldn't feel, I understand feeling intimidated for sure, but please know that you would never be left on your own. We've never, you know, we're never abandoning anybody. You will have a team there with you in any of these situations to make sure that we're all, because sometimes I forget about it too. I've been doing this a long time, but sometimes, you know, like, you can't remember all the things that are appropriate, and that's why we're a team, right? Like, you are never alone. We really are like the Avengers Initiative. So it is 1:43, which means there's 7 minutes left. So I want to turn it over to you guys, and then I'm definitely going to talk about some of the tactical things about how you join. We've got QR codes and things, but over to you guys if you have any questions. Otherwise, I can keep making them talk. Yeah, go for it.
First of all, hi Natalie.
Hello, I thought I recognized you.
Come up with it. Make these guys work. Yeah.
So it's better to introduce myself than who I am.
Sure.
She's very familiar who I am. At least I hope that she is. Hi, my name is Daniel. I've been a cosplayer for the past 4 years. 2018, I went to 5 different children's hospitals in the span of 2 days. Shriners was the very first one, and
Aww.
she's always been my friend. So first of all, what I want to say is thank you. Shriners is my absolute favorite. I've been to 4 different children's hospitals. Nothing against the other ones, but Shriners is the greatest.
We're big. I will not rank house.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't want to.
We have Natalie. We will agree, right? We have Natalie up here because Natalie is an amazing partner of ours. We are also obviously huge fans of Shriners.
So yeah, I'm not trying to downplay the.
No.
I'm just saying the level of my experience. On my birthday, my very first hospital visited. Then I went to 3 others later with Shriners, and they gave a table. And now I think you were there with me, with my parents, and all the kids, and they were so happy. And then the other ones were different. So that was the very first impression I had with Shriners and with you. And I'm glad you're still there because I don't have to explain my situation because I'm going again next year.
Oh, great.
So
Yeah.
it's a reunion after 5 years later.
Yeah, we are. We consider ourselves very fortunate to have the relationship that we do, and Natalie's a huge part of that.
So yeah, I just want to say thank you. I want to also relay the message of thank you for anyone, me personally, for anyone who works in Shriners. It's an amazing company, and I cannot give more praise than I always, since the past 4 years, to be honest. And even here, I was talking about Shriners, so it's crazy I even saw you, so, and thank you to my fellow superheroes, for those who.
No, thank you for also doing the cosplay service.
So yeah, so I want to say thank you guys. To anyone, it's important to give if you can, not just because of the holiday season. Give. So.
Any questions? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I will say, if you're interested in joining, definitely please come talk to us kind of once we're done. Like I said, there is a panel at 2 in this room that's sort of more generally about the club if you're interested kind of the rubber pieces chaired by Jennifer here, who's going to keep shaking her head at me. So if you're interested in that. Otherwise, we have QR codes that you can scan, which will take you, there's a very quick online application. If you are kind of familiar with some of the other clubs that require costume reviews, and I think I mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm Photo First, it has some very specific Photo First buddy background, very specific high level of where, like, we just want you to have a costume that looks good, that'll look good for the kids. So it's not an intimidating process at all. We just ask for one costume, a couple pictures of that costume. We do ask, if you look at the online application, it's important that you fill out parts about why you want to do service. That is really important. We do actually read those and we talk about them. So that's super important. You can come by our booth. We're at 350. You can see lots of pictures of all sorts of fun stuff that we've gotten to do. I haven't mentioned it, but we do occasionally get invited out to media events, so that is another component of some things that we are very lucky to do here in the Southern California area, obviously with Hollywood right down the street. That is an additional thing that sometimes we get asked. I mentioned the Comic-Con Museum, that's an example of those sorts of things. So yeah, there's a one event a year requirement, so it's really, really, really easy to get that done. We have events sort of all throughout the greater Los Angeles area on every day of the week, right? So their hospital visits are often during the week because that's when the staff are there, but we have many, many other opportunities. Okay, guys, if you had one thing that you could say that we didn't talk about already in this panel, anybody, what would you say? We have 2 minutes left.
That's not intimidating at all. There's a million things.
Okay, this is worse now.
It's just timing us. Okay, guys. I honestly would say for me, just the one thing I would just say is how rewarding it's been. Like, honestly and truly, like, I've come from a family where we were always taught to just, give back and be grateful for what you have. And for me, just personally, on a personal level, it's just been incredibly rewarding. Like, just to have, it's the ultimate combination of, like, I kind of did touch on this before, but it's the combination of three things that I do love, which is getting to hang with my friends who are like a family, and we get to geek out over all things Marvel, and sometimes even things not. And then we get to give back to our communities in ways that not just reward the community, but ourselves. And then the third thing is, like, who doesn't want to be running around in a costume when it's not Halloween? I mean,
Right? Who doesn't want to do that?
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to leave it on. So thank you guys so much for sitting and listening to us. We're really appreciative. And let's give our panelists a
You guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.